He walked into the kitchen calm as a surgeon and said, "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend for a month. $60,000 up front." The plate in my hands slid under the water, and for a second I forgot my own name because who says that to the woman packing his kid's lunch? My boss is Calder Pierce, CEO of Hearthlight Brands, a man who sells the image of family on billboards while living in a house that whispers, and I am the housekeeper who knows where the nightlight is and which monster Theo is currently afraid of. "You heard me," he said, businesslike, not unkind. "Board optics, investors, they do not trust a single father at the head of a family-first company." I stared at the maple outside, shivering, like it knew a storm was coming. "Mr. Pierce, I scrub grout and chase crumbs. I am not a +1 accessory." He did not blink. "You are steady, discreet. Theo trusts you. I do not bring just anyone near him." That part tugged at the softest place in me because Theo had already braided himself into my days. The pirate stories, the questions, the way he checked the hall to make sure I was there before he fell asleep. Money sat on the table like a dare. My mom's dialysis bills were stacked like a skyline. The number Calder said could push the whole horizon back. "Everything goes in writing," I said the next morning. "Payment boundaries, duration. I am not changing who I am. No red lipstick, no fake flirting. I am not laughing at bad jokes." He almost smiled. "Noted." We shook hands. A clean contract, we thought, as if feelings respect paper. The first event was a ballroom soaked in gold light violins in the corner people who practiced their smiles. In the 3-panel mirror at a boutique, a stylist pinned the hem of a smoke-colored dress and told me I looked like I belonged. I did not feel like it, but I stood straighter. "Do I pass for a CEO's girlfriend now?" I asked, half joking. Calder's voice softened a 1/4 inch. "You always did. This is just polishing." Inside the ballroom, heads turned. He leaned toward me without touching. "Be yourself. The calm version. The kind version. That is who they will trust." A board member asked how we met, and I said, "At his house I was working Life Takes Turns You Cannot Plan." And people laughed, not the polite kind. On the terrace later, Theo's small hand slipped into mine. "Are you going to stay?" he asked with those big, serious eyes. "For tonight," I said. "Always," he corrected. My heart did that painful, hopeful thing. Calder stood in the doorway, watching the steel in his face flickering into something human, and for a second, the story we were telling to other people felt like it might be telling us back. Second act is where the universe tests your lines. A charity gala in a glass museum, diamonds like nobody noticed. A voice behind me, "Mara Quinn, no way." And there was Silas Hart, from college, all elbows and poetry turned into a man who runs at sunrise. We laughed about a professor who never graded on a curve, about a bookstore that died without saying goodbye. I touched his sleeve when I laughed, muscle memory, not strategy. Across the room I felt a jaw harden. Later I found Calder at the bar, hand closed around a glass like it might run. "I was looking for you," I said. He kept his eyes on the cut crystal. "You seemed occupied." "Old friend," I said, confused and a little breathless from the speed of memory. "We were catching up." "Clearly," he said. "I thought this was pretend." The words hit like cold water. "It is," I said, quieter. "Then maybe remember that." Yeah, that happened. I went to the restroom, washed my hands a full minute, told the mirror I could survive a month and a contract, and a man who guarded himself like a vault. That night, I could not sleep, so I went downstairs for tea, and ended up sitting with my head in my hands. When I looked up, Calder was in the doorway, sleeves rolled tight, on something unguarded in his face. He handed me a linen pocket square that was still warm. "I was not fair to you," he said. "At the gala." I shook my head. "You do not owe me an apology. This whole thing is weird." He crouched to meet my eyes. "You did not overstep. I did. I let something personal cloud a professional arrangement. Not a confession, not a declaration, but a crack where light could start." The house changed in small ways. He lingered when I read to Theo, asked genuine questions about the drawings, stood in doorways like he was learning how to stand still. Then the storm came. A nor'easter rolled in mean, and early school called parents to pick up the driver got stuck behind a jackknifed truck. My phone flashed no signal like a joke. After 20 minutes, I wrapped Theo in my jacket and walked us home. The wind yelled. He tucked his face into my neck and declared himself a dragon, so I breathed warm air like smoke and told him we were almost there. We pushed through the front door, soaked and shaking, and Calder met us with fear disguised as anger. "What were you thinking walking with my son in that?" he barked. "He is not just your son," I snapped back before my brain could stop me. Silence hit hard. He shrugged off his jacket and placed it around my shoulders without meeting my eyes. "You could have called," he said, quieter. "Signal kept dropping," I said. I got him home warm and breathing. He reached toward Theo. I held on, and for a long breath none of us moved. Then his hand rose slow and careful, tucked a wet strand of hair behind my ear. We leaned in, the air went electric, and he stepped back like a cord yanked him. "Get changed," he said, voice rough. "You will catch cold." And just like that, the window shut. Here's the twist you asked for. It did not come from a villain or a legal clause. It came from a box in the attic that smelled like dust and memory. He went up to fix a heater rattle and came down with a wooden box I had dusted 100 times. Inside was an old phone with a cracked screen rubber band holding it together. A voice message lived there. June, his late wife, and her voice uncurled into the kitchen like a hand on his back. "Hey, love. If you are hearing this, I am not there to say it, but please do not keep your heart in a museum. Remember the girl in ceramics who stayed late to wash all the brushes. Mara. If life ever brings her back around, do not push her away, because she reminds you of me. Let yourself love again." The same day, Calder found an old Polaroid from that night class. June with clay on her cheek, her arm around me. He held it up between us like a verdict. "You knew June." "I should have told you," I said. "We took a class." Later, when the ferry accident happened, I was stocking bandages at the clinic when they brought in survivors. "We did not save her." I held her hand. "She kept asking for you. I never wanted to be part of your worst memory." He stepped back like I had shoved him. "And then you walked into my house like it was coincidence," he said. "You stayed out of guilt." "No," I said, voice thinning. "I stayed because your son made me feel like I mattered again, because you looked at me like I was not just my past. I was afraid if I told you everything would end, and I would not know how to walk through this house without looking for you two." He stared at the floor. "I do not know what to do with this." "I will make it easy," I said, setting the pocket square on the counter, like I was returning something I had borrowed too long. "I will go." I did not say goodbye to Theo. If I had, I would not have left. The house turned quiet enough to hurt. No humming, no clink of mugs, no pirate voice. Grief learned a new shape. Calder told himself clean stories. He is good at spreadsheets you can live inside, until he found June's message and the paper caught fire. He listened, sat down like the chair was the only thing holding him together, and chose a different story. He woke Theo and said, "Do you want to go get Mara?" And Theo said, "I told you she would come back, Lo." Like he had always known. I was at my rental on Maple Court, porch light on, because I am that kind of person, when the knock came. Calder stood there, soaked, jaw set, like he was afraid the words would run. He stepped back into the cold and dropped to his knees on my porch boards. "I am sorry," he said. "I was angry. I was scared. I told myself I did not need you. Truth is, I thought my heart died with June. But you woke something up I thought was gone. You are not a replacement. You are not a mistake. I choose you." And the word choose cracked something hard in me. I stepped into the cold, and everything blurred. Rain, snowmelt, tears. And he said, "You protected your pain, I did too. You gave my son joy. You gave my house warmth. You gave me a map back to myself." A tiny voice from the steps. "See." And there was Theo with his dinosaur pressing it into my hands like a badge. We went inside. 6 months later, the house did not echo. The guest house out back became a reading club on Tuesdays and Thursdays for kids who needed a soft place to land. I caught Calder watching through the glass while I knelt beside a kid stuck on a sentence, and his face did that quiet thing that makes your own breathing soften. On a random Tuesday morning, the kitchen became a flower blizzard because he and Theo were making French toast. "Some meetings can wait," he said, sliding a plate toward me. And when I teased him about the first meal I made there, truly tragic eggs, he said, "I ate every bite because it was the first warm thing this house had tasted in a long time." At my mom's clinic, the balance said 0 one afternoon, a foundation name I did not recognize. I asked Calder. He kissed my forehead and said, "Some gifts do not need an audience. You can call that romantic or rich guy penance or just Tuesday. I call it a home learning to speak again." Satisfying ending, sure, but here is the part people argue about. Was I wrong to take that deal in the beginning, to trade image for money, and call it love later, because it hurt less? Or was it the strangest kind of grace? Two people cornered by loss and bills pretending for cameras, and finding something real where everyone expected performance. You tell me. If you felt this hit, share it with someone who still believes ordinary Tuesdays can save a life, and drop your take in the comments. Was I right or wrong to say yes on day one? Are boards too quick to judge a single parent? Have you ever seen love show up in a way that looked wrong on paper and right in real life? Your turn.